Hey, you want to get high, man?
Let's stimulate your mind.
Get up, Chucky! What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
Rojan Kim.
Hello, and welcome to the Rojan Kim Cast. It's me, your host, Rojan Kim. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Joining me today is Steven Belkowski, a comedian that I met in my travels here on the open mic scene in Los Angeles. Steven Belkowski looks just like a fuzzy guy. He actually looks like a roommate I had in college called Fuzzy Dave. Fuzzy Dave was kind of a hippie pickup artist. He was sort of like, he had wore a lot of hemp and was super into, intersectional feminism and was just the biggest pussy hound I'd ever seen in my entire life. He was just one time he fucking kicked our door in off the hinges just so he could fuck this girl. Right? Like he couldn't go get a key, he couldn't go to her place. He just kicked the door off the hinges. I came home and it's just them naked. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see my roommate's dick just flopping out in the wind because the door was off the hinges. And I was like, what the fuck is this, Dave? And he was just like, dude, had to fuck. And this is, a guy who's like, oh, yeah, I'm a vegan, peace and love. But when it came down to fuck, he just, kicked the fucking door in, you know what I'm saying? And, he was fucking mad girl, so, I don't know. Big ups to Dave. But I just, what I didn't like about Dave is he's just really pushy with his ideology on me. He was on me about eating meat and just not caring about his politics, not caring about fucking go to the sit-in at the ethnic studies department and stuff. It's like, I get it. All right. Well, anyway, Steven's nothing like that. I'm talking about this other rando guy. Steven, just to give you a visual, he's got curly blonde hair that's sort of, long. Matted is too far. Matted is much too far, but it's not silky smooth. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to describe hair. I wish I should have asked him how would he describe his hair. Anyways, he's good. He looks kind of like a hippie. He wears tie-dyed shirts, that's for sure. So that to me screams hippie. Super into bassnectar, and whatever, but beyond that, I wanted to talk to him just about his experiences as a young lad growing up in Indonesia. He was an army brat, so he grew up, around the world. So I talked to him about his experiences growing up as a young white lad in Indonesia. And then, of course, coming to Virginia, where he ended up growing up. And then, really, he just told me a lot about some experiences he had using drugs, which apparently he had never told anybody before. So I don't know if this is going to get him in trouble or if he's going to ask me to take this down because his parents might hear this. And I mean, he is a grown adult. He's a grown adult. He's a grown adult living the dream, coming to Los Angeles and being quasi-homeless. But, that's what people do. They come out there, they pursue their dreams. They're on the rocks, they're on the ropes, and they pick themselves up. And it's possible. It's the land of opportunity, guys. Hey, I was homeless for a while, couch surfing. It sucked. But now I have a place. I have my own apartment with my beautiful bride to be. My fucking awesome dog. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what do I have to complain about? Anyways, it was great talking to Steven, talking to him about his experiences, talking to him about pushing the boundaries of reality. And then we kind of rounded out talking a little bit about the old child acting that I ranted about last week. I thought he was actually going to be against what I was saying, but he was for it. So then, it wasn't the greatest back and forth, but hey, you know what? At least he's backing me up there in the whole abolish child acting that, there's no good being done for them. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this episode. It's number 88, guys. Rojan Kimcast number 88 with Steven Belkowski. Hope you enjoy it.
Got the whole spot going up like that. Lay back, hot in the cut like that. We can turn the dance floor to an elevator in a millisecond, have it going up like that. We can switch it up like that.
One would be more insightful, one would be more visual or whatever. They could, feel more from one. I don't know. It would just fuck with their senses, different things like that. but you know, it's crazy that they don't do more of those studies. You know, I don't know. Like all the scientists that have done this, it's always like under the books or whatever, off the table, because they don't want to lose funding.
Right, because the drug war.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the point. Just put the
Thanks
microphone
a lot,
like
Nixon.
here, but like talk, like don't talk into it directly. Just talk like
Don't tell me what to do.
Okay. You good? All right.
I
You
think
think-
am I good?
Well, yeah.
You're holding it off your chin.
That's what, yeah, because I don't need to. You don't need to hold it on your chin.
You're trained professional.
I'm not a professional. I'm a trained amateur. I'm self-trained, I guess. Like
I'm an expert mic holder.
I hope so. Can you imagine if you've been doing comedy for like 10 years and you couldn't hold a mic stand? You're still fumbling with
Dude,
the mic.
I leave the mic in the stand so often that sometimes I'll pull it out just to be like, I still know how to hold this, right? Like,
Are you a stand comic? Like you like to put the old, you know what I mean? Like keep the mic in the stand.
oh
and
yeah,
then-
I like doing that.
Yeah, a lot of comics. There's like, I feel like that's sort of the traditional way, right? Like a long time ago, it kind of used to be.
Yeah,
that way, I think
maybe.
so.
Like my whole thing about it is like if I'm moving around too, I want people to be laughing for the right reasons. I don't want them to be excited for myself. At least like not right now.
Gotcha.
You know, so my thing is, you know, if I'm moving as little as possible, you know,
moving
it's
as little
all
as
about,
possible, like literally not in motion, like standing
a lot of
still.
times I just hold on to the microphone or I hold on to the stand and stuff, or I'll rock it back and forth. But you know, and I still use hand gestures, obviously, but I try to not do any act outs or anything like that. I want it to be like, you know, just intellectually
just
stimulating.
trying to just go for the text.
Exactly, not visual.
That's what I think Tom Segura calls like jazz moves or whatever. You know, like comics who like do a lot of an emphasis or like act outs and shit to hit the joke. You know, but you know,
and a lot of times it's like super useful, or you know, it's pivotal to the joke. A lot of times, like you know, it's completely surrounded around the joke. You know, but it's just yeah, I feel like right now I'm kind of it's like training with weights on, you know, doing more to make it, you know, as difficult as possible. So that in the long run later,
right,
you know, it'll be now I know that they're laughing at the jokes or at the content, so I can, you know, act it out and be more silly and stupid or whatever.
I heard Chris Rock does that when he tries stuff out. He doesn't do any, like, he just reads his notepad as dry as possible just to see if he gets any laughs at all. And then the ones he feels like are funny, he'll start adding like the mannerisms and stuff. You know, by the time he gets to his special, he's got like everything all down. But first, it's like the same philosophy. You know, he's like, I just want to know if the words by themselves, without my inflection, you know, are funny.
Well, that's crazy. So I'm like Chris Rock.
You are exactly. You are the white Chris Rock. Is actually how I describe you to people.
That was
like, have you seen Steven? Dude, he's fucking. Oh, joining me today is Steven Belkowski. He's a comedian. I've met on my travels in the open mic arena of Los Angeles, the death match that is LA, the Shark Tank and machine gun. I don't know, whatever metaphors, but like, you know what I mean. It's just. But anyway, Steven's out here doing the thing. He's originally from Virginia, you said?
Yeah.
Where in Virginia are you from?
Newport News, Virginia.
Where is that?
It's in like southeastern, about an hour from the beach. That's where I grew up.
Beach town.
Hour
not
from the
really.
beach. It's an hour from
okay,
the beach,
so not quite a beach town. How would you describe your town?
Jeez, man, that's a tough one. You know that Lorde song where she used to talk about, like, you know, we live in cities you'll never see on TV? It's like that, you know? It's technically a city, but it's like, you know, it's just...
We live in cities, is that...
You'll never see on TV.
Oh, okay,
Not
gotcha.
very
Like,
pretty,
there's
but
like,
we
so
sure know
it's
how to run things.
So you feel it's a city?
Yeah,
You'd
well,
call it a city?
The city of Newport News. And there's like a shipbuilding
the place is called Newport News?
Newport News. Okay, yeah.
Like it's... Wait. So the name of the city is the same name as the news show that the city has?
Dude,
essentially?
You would think that they would, call it Newport News. But no, all the news stations are in Virginia Beach. So.
What? They don't have a Newport News?
Right? I don't think there's any.
Do you think that's on purpose? Because they're like, we will not be made fun of.
Maybe. They don't
we
want
will not
the
be
puns.
mocked.
Yeah.
We will
Virginia's a pretty serious state. So.
Oh yes, of course. Virginia. Thomas Jefferson, who is from Virginia. Virginia, the
George Washington.
Pivotal. Yes, of course. I went to. You guys ever have to go to the old, Mount Vernon or whatever? Like.
No, we didn't. So Newport News is kind of what's the word? Like kind of like a lower to middle class area. But a lot of times the kids from DC, from that area, would come down and see Williamsburg and like Jamestown and shit,
which is nearby.
It's like 30 minutes away.
Gotcha.
But our schools usually didn't have the funding to bus everybody up to Northern Virginia, and if they did, a lot of times the kids would just not be on their best behavior.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. I went to Mount Vernon. It was very interesting. A lot of slave quarters. There's a great deal. Didn't really. I wasn't prepared for that, but it was just like huge. It was a lot.
Yeah,
it was a lot of it, and just big old.
You always hear about how nice George Washington was to his slaves, though.
I guess, but he still. It was like I'm sure he knew. I feel like, I guess she's my fiance. My fiance, she's like huge George Washington fan. She read this book and shit, and she read all about him, and he was actually like super aware that it was contradictory. He was like the father of America, this country of freedom, but he had these slaves because the slaves were actually, it was like all the dough he had. That was his fortune. So he couldn't let it go.
I remember in elementary school they were telling us, they were like, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they were good guys. Like after they died, they freed all their slaves. And I was like, what? After? It's like that makes them good guys.
Yeah, because they had them the whole time. They had them.
Now that we're gone, seriously, guys, slavery's not cool.
So then, where does your family have roots in Virginia proper, or like are they immigrants?
No, so I was actually born in North Dakota. I'm a military brat.
Military brat from North Dakota.
Yeah, my mom is from Minnesota. My dad's from New Jersey.
Gotcha.
That's where their roots lie.
And so you don't really have roots in a way, because do you feel like you don't have roots because of the military thing?
Got no roots.
So where else have you lived?
We lived in Indonesia for like 3 years.
Shit.
But yeah, I was the youngest kid. I was the last of 6. So we I was at the end of the careers.
Nice.
He came back from Indonesia and went back to Virginia. It was like North Dakota to Virginia to Indonesia back to Virginia.
Gotcha.
And then they retired there.
Do you remember Indonesia at all?
Yeah, those were like where my first memories were. But I was so young that I couldn't enjoy it like the whole time. I was like, I'm an American kid and I'm not in America. I just want to be in America.
Oh, so you remember that shit? You remember being like, what am I doing here?
I remember being a real
shithole
fucking
country.
Shitty kid.
What am I doing? Fuck you.
If I could
USA.
If I could go back in time, I would assault my younger self out of nowhere and just be like.
Do you think your younger self would have been a Trump supporter? You think it would have been like America first?
1,000%.
America.
Dude, when I was in 9th grade, I went to this Catholic school with my brother David, and he was a few years older than me, but like together we started this Right to Life club. He was the president of it, and I was the vice president.
Holy shit, you would have been one of those Covington boys.
Dude,
you would have been
straight up. And then like the year after that, I started going to public school, and this like kid comes up to me, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like it sucks. I got my girl pregnant," and I was like, "What? You can't have a kid?" Oh,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it kind of like slaps you with real life.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean you can't have a kid?
Yeah, when it has nothing to do with you, you like feel like you're all for it until suddenly.
Yeah,
you're like,
100%.
Oh,
and I was like, welfare's bullshit. You can get out and work and all this stuff, and then
So you were like a right wing kid. You were like you had these right wing values. You were a conservative right wing.
I used to argue for like McCain and all that shit.
And like how we're doing the right thing overseas.
Yeah,
like, we need to be overseas.
All that
and
stuff.
you were in Indonesia, Muslim majority, the largest Muslim country in the world, actually.
Yeah,
and you were like,
the highest population.
It's not a religion of peace. You're like,
Yeah, dude, well, see, like that was always, I don't know. I was never like anti-Muslim because of that.
Yeah.
No, like, sure, it's a legitimate thing because when I was in Indonesia, like I genuinely felt like my younger self, even though I didn't understand it, like I was like a xenophobic kid.
Right.
Like I was like.
Well, you were on a military base, right? An American military.
Yeah.
Base,
Well,
right?
no. We didn't live on the base. We left
where were
off
you?
the base, but I went to an international school,
Gotcha.
and all the kids there weren't necessarily military brats. So like some of them were like from Japan, from Italy or whatever.
So international, super international, super.
A lot of people in the oil industry out there.
Gotcha. So a lot of kind of like gotta have some money, I guess, to be in one of those schools, right? You gotta be like
I suppose.
some
But in
money.
Indonesia, it's like
Well, I mean, compared to the average Indonesian, not the American. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's interesting like position to be in as a kid, to be like from an American but not in America, but at a school like a school for people with money. You know what I mean? Like, but then feeling like this place sucks. Because were you like watching shit on TV and the internet and seeing
all
like
of
all this stuff?
the fucking same shit. It was like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. So all the media that I was, being, what's the fucking word I'm looking for here? Whatever. That was being released to me. Yeah,
brainwashed? Were you being brainwashed by that?
All this shit that I was taking in, it was like all about American kids and in America, and I was just like the whole time I was like, I want to get to America, I want to get to America, and then I came back to America in second grade, and I was like, fuck. And I was like, yo, this shit sucks. I want to go back to Indonesia with all my fucking friends back there.
What was that? Do you remember like what the difference was, or what made you be like, oh shit?
The schools were so much harder in Indonesia, and I repeated first grade in Indonesia, and then I was like struggling in second grade. I came back in second grade, and then it was like I was the smartest kid in class.
You're a fucking genius. You're basically fucking.
And like the teacher was talking about like putting me ahead of grade, and I was like, fucking do it then. Like,
right.
I just repeated a grade. I was like, I want to catch up with the kids my age.
It's basically because you were like Asian. You were like,
exactly. I lived in an Asian country for 3 years.
Where you were like, you didn't believe it, because Asians don't believe in like good at math or anything like. They just believe like everyone can do it. You just do it over and over.
Well,
and
everybody can fucking do it.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's why America's dumb, because we think that like education is an ability. Like, you know what I mean? Like being able to run the 100-mile dash or something.
Yeah.
like math is some, but it's like basically as long as you're not like disabled, like you could do simple math.
I think like motivational posters and shit that's the real problem. We have too much motivation, and it like kills our motivation, because you see all these posters, it's like you can do it, you can be anything, and it's like, man, that's talking to me, but it's also talking to everybody else that looks at it. I think if everybody can be anything, then can anybody be anything?
Well, exactly.
Who's special if everyone's special?
Everyone's special. How can anybody be special? And not only that, I think we have a commercial culture that tells you whatever you want, you deserve it right now, because you're awesome. Like, and then
just
you're
for
like,
being you.
Then you don't really think about like, oh, I have to work hard to get stuff. You know what I mean? You're like, why can't I just be awesome? Especially when you have celebrities who get famous for doing nothing, so just for being fucked on camera or something. You know what I mean? Like, and then you make $1 million.
It's like, I'm always like, God, I wish that somebody would just come up and give me a TV show now. But I'm like, dude, but if I had a TV show right now, it'd be fucking awful.
Right. Imagine somebody gave you like $10 million and it's like, exactly. We're counting on you to make more than this back.
I'd be like, all right, that's fine. You take this $1 million right now. I'm just gonna fucking go out to Fiji so I can write this thing, because I need
to Fiji.
I need to be in a peaceful environment.
How long are you gonna be in Fiji, Steven?
2 years.
2 years. Oh my God. We were hoping you could get something to us by like next week.
You can't rush art.
Oh my goodness. It's like he's already taken the money.
Have you ever seen how fucking what is it, like Ted and whatever's $1 billion movie?
Oh, the fucking Tim and Eric.
Tim and Eric.
No.
God, I'm sorry I called them Ted, but
Bill and Ted's $1 million movie.
Ted. There you go.
Have you ever seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
No.
Really? Wow, it's too bad there's an visual component to this, because you look like the type of dude who would be asking me that question. You look like
people always ask me. I never watched like stoner movies. People always ask me.
I wonder why.
Have you seen Half Baked? I saw Half Baked for the first time like 2 months ago.
I wonder why though, because well, for those of you who can't see, Steven looks just like, I don't know. He's wearing a tie-dyed shirt.
He's got a tie-dyed shirt with a cat on it.
Oh, there you go. See, that explains everything. That's all you really need to know, that he's from Virginia. And he wears a tie-dye shirt, so he's not like a right-wing Virginian, clearly anymore. So somewhere along the line, you were like, hey, it isn't like what I thought it was when I was younger, and then you seem to at least have not picking sides anymore or anything.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was, pretty much just, as a hardcore conservative and all that stuff. But it was really because like my parents were hardcore conservatives.
Sure. Yeah.
And at that point, it's like you've never experienced anything in your life to actually make you think the way that you do. You're just regurgitating everything that you've absorbed from your parents.
Totally.
So then, I started going to public school and interacting with like, I don't know, kids from like a different side of life. Because we didn't live like in it wasn't a bad neighborhood, you know, but there were like surrounding neighborhoods were like, you know, pretty rough, you know, and we all went to the same high school. And, you know, I went from like being like, oh my God, yeah, you got to work for your money, there's no fucking welfare, to like, you know, my buddies on the football team are now like quitting the team because they've got to pick up a second job so they can help their mom pay for their 5 younger siblings and stuff. And they're still on welfare and they're still struggling. And it's like, you know, damn, you know, maybe we need welfare reform for sure, but it's like we need welfare, you know. That changes your perspective on so many things. It's like maybe I shouldn't be such a fucking asshole about what my parents' tax money is doing. Like,
and plus you never know what someone's situation is. You know what I mean? Like, just because you're okay doesn't mean everybody else is, and people one day that could be you. That's the other thing, is like we live in a country where all it would take is like just one health problem to fucking put somebody on the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
straight up.
I mean, we literally, so it's really weird. It's actually the genius of this country to trick everybody into thinking that they could all become rich and never become poor. And that way they'll side with the, you know what I mean? You'll always side with the rich because you're like, I could be that rich one day.
Dude, at the beginning of February, I lost my wallet, right? And then like a week later, I lost my job.
Oof.
And so then I had to start looking for a new job. But when I lost my wallet, I lost my ID cards with it, right? So I had no identification. Okay, so then I get online and I try to order a new ID card from Virginia, right? And I changed my mailing address to the address out here that I wanted it shipped to. And then after I hit like okay, it says you don't have a Virginia address, so we can't send it to you. And I was like, all right, that's weird. I'm just going to change it back, have them send it to my parents, and my parents will send it out to me. So then I tried to change my address back. It wouldn't let me. And it was like, you need to call this number tomorrow. So I called the number tomorrow, and they were like, yeah, I'm sorry. Because you changed it, you know, you have to come in person and show us proof of residence to get, you know, it changed back. And I was like, all right, well, I'm in California right now, and I, you know, have no way of getting back without identification. I can't get on a plane. I can't get on a bus. Can't run a car or anything. She was like, well, we can do like an approval thing, so you can, you know, go on just one time or whatever with no identification. We'll tell you where to meet up with TSA. I was like, all right. On top of that, I have no money. I can't just afford to like, you know, fly out to Virginia and back really quick, and then, you know, come back to no job and shit.
Right.
And then they were like, all right, well, you know, your parents can get power of attorney and, you know, come do it. And I was like, all right, well, fucking great. Because to give somebody power of attorney, you need to get it notarized, and to get something notarized, you need your fucking ID. So they finally like sent out my birth certificate to me. I got the shit worked out at the California DMV. But in between all of that, I got off work one day, and this homeless lady was like asking me if I had any weed, and I was like, no, sorry, like just lost my wallet and stuff. I can't even buy weed. And she was like, don't let them make you homeless. That's happened to so many people that I know and shit. And she like talks about like, yeah, people will be out here and they'll lose their wallet just for that little time that they can't, you know, find a job or whatever. It's like they just like go so far down that they can't come back from it. And then,
dude, almost so many people are living check to check.
Yeah.
So once one check is done, I know I am.
That, dude, that,
one check's
that was exactly
I'm done.
my
I'm like, fuck it, I'm just facing an eviction. You know what I mean? Like I need and there's no real security. You know, there's no like so. I don't know. I mean, you know, we don't have a health safety net. So if anything happens to us health-wise, if anything happens fucking where the economy crashes and people lose their jobs, you're fucked. You know what I mean? There's like, we're all kind of like, I feel like everything is just kind of hanging by a thread, at least in this country. And that's sort of how we live. There's some kind of edge that gives gives us all this weird edge, right? Like everybody's also kind of like hyper competitive and fucking like like true. Fucking like, psychotic. Essentially, we're sociopaths in some ways because
I feel like
we're desperate.
Especially like out here in Hollywood, it's almost like it's the goal to lose your mind, like to go insane with whatever your art is.
You think so? With people, you think so? You feel like that's romanticized?
I don't like. Maybe that's just a personal thing.
Maybe
I'm getting off my
you're also
chest.
like 25. Like, you know, you do 2 years until 27, right? That's you go out like Jim Morrison.
Dude, that's literally like I don't know if you've heard me say that before.
Have you said that?
But I do a fucking bit on
about
how
the 27
the best
club
thing that can happen to you is dying young, and it's 27 for musicians. Okay, so for a comic, and you're in your 30s. All right, you got Andy Kaufman, Mitch Hedberg, Bill Hicks. Like, you know, those are 3 heavy fucking hitters all done in their 30s. I used to tell people those are my favorite comics until I thought about it, and I was like, and Stephen Wright, you know, like get some longevity in the game.
But I guess I feel like those dudes, well, Andy Kaufman, it wasn't by his own hand, right? He was sick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really, I feel like
but so was Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks also, yeah. I don't think it was. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm talking about Jim Morrison. I'm talking about Hendrix and Morrison. Like, I don't think it's just musicians, dude. I think it's like that is an age where if you don't fucking figure some things out, you'll fucking kill yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't figure out like either how much you can drink, how much heroin you can slam, or how much whatever. It's a sign of maturity where you're like, if you keep pushing it, you will die. And the dudes who just pushed it die, or girls too, Joplin, whatever, all of them, fucking the people. And I think those are just the famous ones. Just think of all the people,
Hendrix,
just nobodies.
Cobain, and Mac Miller now.
Yeah, just think about all the nobodies. Nobody gives a fuck about how many of them have probably fucking made it to that point
with white lighters and all the.
Especially now with like the fentanyl that's out there and shit. The fucking all the crazy fucking ways you can OD.
I know 2 people that have died from fentanyl.
Accidental or like on purpose?
Accidental.
So what are they?
Well,
opiates?
They were doing heroin. Yeah.
Okay, heroin.
So it's like I accidentally OD'd on fucking fentanyl while I was doing heroin.
No, but that's still fentanyl's way more
absolutely
toxic. Like you can OD
I don't know
so much
anybody
easier.
that's going out just trying to get fentanyl. I mean, the fentanyl patches, but I've never heard of somebody like just rail this little line of fentanyl.
No, but what they do is they put it in lollipops and shit. They make them oral. It's like they put it so people are doing fentanyl recreationally, dude.
That's the craziest thing, because as soon as you said a fentanyl lollipop, I was like, I'd try that.
You're like, that sounds good. They have to do it so you can't take it all at once. You have to like extendo release it.
No,
and
I mean,
then,
that makes sense. But like, if you're one of those people that eats your lollipops,
well, that's just gonna happen no matter what, right? Anything, especially with opiates, I feel, or opioids. If you hear that, like, yo, this shit is the shit, you could die. People go. That's what they do with heroin when they hear this dealer, somebody died because of this one deal. They know that he's got the good shit, so they all go out, So that's the thing about junkies, or the thing about I guess opiate addiction. I've never been opiate.
Yeah, I'm not into the.
One time I thought we were told it was opium. Me and my buddy were buying this shit, and we were told it was opium. And we smoked it, and I remember it was great. We're smoking it with weed and shit. And it was great. And I remember we told each other, all right, man, we're just going to buy it one time. We're not going to buy it again. We definitely bought like 3-4 more bags. And then we stopped because I started feeling weird. I started feeling like getting headaches. And so I stopped. And then it wasn't for maybe like a year later. My friend Bob was like, dude, remember that opium we were buying? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I just found out it was black tar heroin.
Oh, my God.
I was like, oh, no, come on. Dude. I was like, no wonder. So, yeah, so I've definitely done opiates. I've done Oxy too. I've tried Oxy. It's not for me though. I don't really like it.
Stay with me. When I was younger, I had like a green stick fracture, and I went to the hospital. They gave me morphine to try to pop it back into place.
What's a green stick fracture?
It's like where it like breaks partially, but it's still connected at one point. Like if you like broke a healthy branch or something.
Oh, I got you. So it didn't break all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you young or some shit? Cause
I was like 16.
That's still. I think it's 17. Like when you're still a child, your bones are flexible.
Yeah,
they don't break all the way or some shit. Okay, yeah. So you had one of those.
But yeah, they gave me morphine at the hospital, and it was like it didn't take the pain away. It just made me laugh instead of like crying. And
so you still felt it, but you were just happy.
Yeah, it was weird. And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it. And then there was another time where it's like, my buddy and I who, we had explored all these drugs together and stuff. And it was like we were always, neck and neck. And he got opium one time. And he was like, hey, man, like, do you want to try this opium with me? And, it was me, him, and our one other buddy. And I was like, I always tell people, I'm like, this is the 3 different ways that you can handle, like, opiates, I feel like, or, at that level. And I was like, I said no because I was like, I feel like I just have to draw a line somewhere, and I was like, this seems like a good place to draw the line.
Yeah, that's a good line.
And
like crack into heroin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay,
and then my one buddy, he tried it once and then never tried it again. And then our other buddy, he tried it and then he got like fucking addicted. Yeah, and it's like the last I heard of him, like he had just OD'd, but they went to the hospital and like brought him back. And then I was talking to him on the phone that night after his OD, and he sounded completely fine. He was like, yeah, man, I'm good. And I was like, yo, you're fucked up right now.
You almost died, bro. Yeah, your drug habit almost killed you.
First of all, those opiates are still in your system right now, and then I don't know if it's Narcan or whatever the shit they give them to reverse it. The adrenaline.
Right. So that's like all in Virginia. What's the drugs?
Yeah.
What is the drug scene like in Virginia? Like, do you get exposed to drugs real young, like when you're a kid and shit? Is it around
yeah,
or like
different ages?
So is there weed around when you're kind of like in middle school and shit, or like
yeah, around like certain kids and stuff. Like I said, I went to private school until like 10th grade, and so at private school it was like just like a handful of like the really bad kids that were like smoking weed and shit, and then like a few of them were like taking pills from their parents' cabinets, coming to school and shit. But they would always get in trouble for it. It was like 500 kids at that school, like
small school,
100 teachers, And so but like when I was at like the public schools and shit there, everything's a lot like looser and stuff. There's less like supervision, and at pretty young ages some kids get exposed to like some pretty deep shit, especially towards like downtown Newport News. Like some kids down there are like straight up in elementary school, and like their parents are like doing like crack or heroin around them and stuff.
So what are the drugs you've done? Like, what are the drugs you did back, like, in school? Like
back in Virginia?
Yeah, like when you were...
So, in high school, honestly, I just really smoked weed. And that was, like, when I was 15, I smoked weed for the first time. And then I was working at this car wash, and this dude told me about triple C's, about Corseed and cold and cough medicine. He was like, you just got to be 16 to buy them. And he was like, you take like 8 of them and you'll feel fucked up. And like that night I went to play some video games and I like took 8 of them.
Wait. So what is it again?
It's like a cold and cough medicine.
And they're pills?
Yeah, they're like these little fucking pills.
And if you take 8 of them,
it's
you're
like a
supposed
very
to get
specific one for low low blood pressure. Or
okay.
Yeah, I'm like giving the details in case anybody wants to go out and find these.
No, I just never heard of this triple C. Okay,
yeah, dude.
I've heard of Robo. Like doing Robo testing and stuff.
It's like probably like the same thing. I've never Robo tripped, but people that I've talked to that know what I'm talking about when I say triple C's are like, oh, you ever Robo tripped? I'm like, no, I left that phase behind.
So you went from weed to this over the counter triple C's,
and then it was Spice came out. When Spice first came out, it was
which is a synthetic.
Like, hey, this is legal weed.
Gotcha.
That was how we were getting pitched.
What is that like?
Stupid fucking kids. Dude, here's the thing about it. Spice gets outlawed. They outlaw, the chemical that's being used on it, okay? And then they make a new chemical, a new compound or whatever. They use a new formula, and they make a different thing, and they still sell it as Spice.
Right.
So what is Spice like? It depends on the year.
On the batch of the year. It's like a fine wine. It's a vintage.
The first thing, yeah, exactly.
That 2005 Spice was...
2011 was a little bland, but in 2014...
That's interesting. Well, that is the nature I was saying beforehand about research chemicals. So these synthetic cannabinoids are also research chemicals, and so what they do is exactly what you're saying. They just like move a carbon here or move a little thing, and then it's like a new chemical. But I think it's really
not illegal anymore.
Yeah, but what's crazy about cannabinoids is that we know so little about them that we have no clue why like plant-based THC isn't harmful like these synthetic cannabinoids are, because some of these cannabinoids are either super addictive or they make you spaz out or they make you and nobody knows why. It's so crazy,
dude. I've seen like this one kid when I was at in college. This kid, like, he smoked a dab in this one guy's dorm, and then he's like coming back across and he just like drops to the ground and starts screaming at the top of his lungs, and he starts beating his hands up and down against the ground and whatnot, and he's like I don't know, just like cussing and like, oh my fucking god, all this shit. They had to call the ambulance to pull him away, and then we're like, what happened? And he was like, I just took a dab. And I was like, oh, this poor fucking kid, because he's gonna attribute that all to weed and he's never gonna smoke again. When in reality it's like that dude 100% was probably smoking something else off that dab rig and didn't even think about it or something.
No. I've actually same thing has happened to me, but it wasn't even a dab. It was just a big bong. It was just a bong rip. This kid took a bong rip. My friend's brother, actually, I remember he took a bong rip and then just had a fucking break, dude, like a break from reality. Like we had to we're this close to like calling someone. Like it could have got, but we managed to calm him down.
Yeah.
And fucking, it's the thing about weed, I think that, or just THC or just weed, like, is that it can be dissociative.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize, you know what I mean? When you take a big blast and you don't have a tolerance, you start tripping for real. You know? And especially if you've never tripped before, it probably freaks you the fuck out.
Yeah. It's one thing if you know what's going on. But,
yeah.
I mean, man. Yeah, I mean, the first time you dissociate, it's an overwhelming fucking thing that happens.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're not prepared, you think you're crazy.
It's like, dude, right after, like, the first time it happened to me, I was just like, I understand homelessness now.
What? Where did you dissociate from cannabis, or how did you fucking from what?
No, LSD.
Ah, gotcha.
The first time.
Like a peak or like a...
No, it was well, yeah, maybe towards the peak, but I took a whippet.
Oh, well, that's why, because it's fucking, yeah, exactly, the nitrous, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I've since had it, like, just on, LSD or, mushrooms or whatever. But, yeah, I was, like, sitting in a room with all my buddies, and it was just, like, the craziest thing, I felt like I lived through, like, 20 minutes twice,
Whoa.
And I knew what everybody was going to say. It was, like, this omniscient presence, and then one of my buddies who was, like, had dissociated a little earlier that night and had just came back from it, like, he and I were, like, sitting and talking to each other on the couch, but it was, like, in broken words, but it was, like, a flowing conversation,
like,
for he and I.
speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a universal consciousness.
I've heard of nitrous on psychedelics being super. I've never done it before, but what was it like? What was
It's extremely interesting, and it's like different every time. If you close your eyes, it's one way. If you open your eyes, it's another.
So did you experience just a change in headspace and visuals? Like, is there anything you remember, like, that's super specific about it?
So, like, sometimes it'll just you can feel like a whomping in your ears, like whoop, 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 yeah. And then
that's the nitrous for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Womp, 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 yep.
And then, like, every once in a while, you'll dissociate or whatever, and I don't know. When that happens, it's almost like one time when it happened to me, it felt like a legitimate outer body experience. It was like I leaned my head back and opened my mouth up, and all right, I'll tell you this entire story because it's a good story. It was before I was leaving for LA, and my buddy and I were like, let's have one last trip before we go. And so Eric and I, he gets a bunch of whippets. He gets 2 packets of whippets, and we're sitting at my place, and he's ripping them at first, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. And then, he keeps, hitting more and more, and he's just laughing up a storm and having a good time. And I was like, all right, screw it. Like, I'll hit a few. So I start to hit some. He starts to hit some. And it was like, as we, start hitting more and more, I was like, I feel like something is about to happen. Like, I could feel the dissociation coming on. And I was like, I think, like, we're about to trip out. And then, we keep doing more. And I was like, it's going to be when we finish this box, And I was like, I just knew it. I knew that we were, and we keep going back and forth. And finally, we get to the end of it. There's just 2 whippets left. Or no, there's 4. There's my last 2 and his last 2. I load my 2 in, and I hit him. He loads his 2 in, and he hits them. And it's like, we're right there. We're right at the edge of the gate, but it's not opening. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, I thought for sure we were going to dissociate, but, I guess not. And I start to look around, and I start to check out all, like, the, empty whippet canisters on the ground. And I was like, shit. And, Eric's just sitting there with his eyes closed. And then I say, I'm like, dude, do you see, like, any whippets laying around? Like, did we miss one? And I look up at him, and he's got tears flowing down his face, and he's holding a whippet in his hand. And it was like he knew, like, the whole time that it was like, we were going to dissociate when that whippet went off. And he was like, this is going to be, like, our last trip together. And
it became, like, this emotional thing.
Yeah, dude. And we, like, got up and, like, we hugged and shit. And I was like, I love you, man, all that stuff. And then we sat down, he loads it in, and then he rips that whippet, and then we both dissociated. And it was the craziest thing. And it was like, my spirit left my body and entered, like, the pool of spirituality, the omniscient God or whatever people want to call it. And I, like, went into Eric's body, came out of Eric's body, and I was just kind of gravitating in, like, the whole universe. I was looking upon the entire universe, and I was like, this is everything. And, I was asking myself all these questions.
Wait,
like,
did you astrally rape your friend? Did you go into your friend's body?
We swapped. He came into me too, okay? Again, this was omniscient, so it was consensual as hell.
Basically, both consensual, just 2 bros entering each other
on
the astral plane. I did go through
all of his memories, though, to every time he was banging, and I, like, kept that spank.
You were like, nice. You were like, nice, bro. He was like, thanks, dude. He was like looking back at you like your Jedi spirit. He was banging. Thanks, Steve.
I implanted myself in some of your memories. I hope you like it.
yeah, it's cool, bro. I did the same.
Oh man. Yeah, but
so okay, that's awesome. So then, Did you ever do DMT then?
I've never done DMT.
Oh, okay. So that actually sounded somewhat similar to DMT,
And
but
after it happened, I kind of was like, I don't see how this could be that much different than DMT.
Well, that's why I'm
Except for
curious.
That didn't last like that long, and I felt like when I was up there, it was like I was looking at the whole universe, and it was one of the questions I asked was like, like why, like how long can I stay here for? And I was like, well, you can stay like here forever if you want. And I was like, well, what will happen to my body, back home? And it's like, well, it'll just turn into a shell, or like just a crazy person that's lost its mind. It'll just go autopilot on body. And it was like, and your friends and family will be distraught and whatever, but like I understood. I was like, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It's just another crazy body running around. And then I was like, what's the point of going back into it? And it's like, well, it's kind of fun to not know what's gonna happen. And I was like, all right, well, that
was enough for you. Like, I'm going back.
Yeah, and then I had the other
I'm going
option of going on to like my next life, and I was like, yeah, let's go see what happens with the comedian.
I'll stay here with this one. Yeah,
but it was like the weirdest thing, because it was like I can like play my part, or like go in and play Eric's part or whatever, but it was just like it's like a universal just pool of consciousness. It completely changed how I view God, honestly.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I went from not viewing him to now.
So you believe in that there is some kind of entity
Yeah.
out there that you'd call God.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
Well, it's like like I feel like we are the entity. Honestly. Well,
You and
if
me?
I want to get real,
Like
that
you and me?
day I was like, Nitros is God.
Nitrous is nitrous oxide. This whole time,
this is what makes us
the
see
dentist.
the world. It's what animates us.
Yeah.
What is it? It's like 70% nitrogen atmosphere, right?
Yeah. So
I'm just saying.
Thus,
every time you breathe, you're pretty much taking a whippet.
well, it's not. I mean, I don't think that's how it works. But
I'm
that's
pretty
not,
sure it's
no,
not.
no,
You've
no.
never done whippets before.
Yes,
and
I have.
So
Yeah, I
well,
have.
not on acid. Fuck you.
Not on acid, but I've done whippets before. You were probably still in Indonesia when I was doing whippets. You were probably
good time.
railing about a drug-free America.
I want so bad to. I just want to go up on stage one day just with a fucking Ready Whip can, like it's my beer,
and then just take hits of
throw
whip
it-
it. I don't know. I feel like that's distracting. Don't you think it's
Well,
like,
that's
do you think
the
it's a
bit.
little? Is that the whole bit?
That's
I don't
gonna
know.
be the bit.
Oh,
That's
all
gonna
right,
be
well,
my whole
okay. Well, then go for it. I said, don't let anybody stop you.
We'll
so wait.
see.
So the thing I was going to tell you about is like, with the research chemical things. So with cannabinoids, super dangerous, but with tryptamines is actually not as dangerous. Like there's actually a well-established community of research chemical. Basically, let's just call them fucking pioneers who've like tried different synthetic chemicals. So they have like synthetic psilocybin and sort of derivatives of it, and they have synthetic LSD and derivatives of it. And like I've gotten tabs online using Bitcoin and shit. Fucking not even through the darknet. They're fucking totally illegal because it's not LSD. It's 1P LSD. They stick a phosphorus on the LSD, and then what happens is when you take it, it just breaks it apart. Like, and then and it's literally the same. I'm telling you. I mean, I've done enough acid where I'm like. I know clean acid, I know dirty acid, and it's clean. It's like clean acid. That's what it feels like.
Shit.
You know what I mean? And and then there's this other stuff that's not even. It's called ALD 52, which is also an LSD analog, and a lot of people actually believe that's what Orange Sunshine was back in the day, because there was there's this like supposed to be this mellow
The
acid
different
back.
recipes,
And it was like the thing about Orange Sunshine was supposed to be super mellow, like it wasn't so crazy in the like jump between like tripping and not tripping, and like, it's supposed to be a smoother come down and stuff, so it was just a little tiny little thing of which I got too, because they sell it for whatever, but like you could just go online. It's like a Canadian vendor who just gets stuff. If you do any more research, it's like is a huge sort of, that's the subculture now. I think part of it is because a lot of people in a lot of markets, they sometimes get shit like that you buy acid, but you have no idea that it's acid. Yeah, it might be like an N-bomb or something. Those N-bombs that are like, it might be something else, like, and you have no idea.
NBMO.
Man, and that's kind of fucked up. I think that's evil, dude, to be selling people shit that's not.
And that's like why test kits are so important. But like that's like, I don't know. I love that we live in an age now where it's like it's getting impossible to hide all the information about drugs.
Right.
They used to be able to hide it all, and like now people are understanding like not everybody that's almost losing their mind on a tab was taking LSD.
Right.
You know, some of these people were like drugged or didn't know what they were taking, you know? And then also on top of that, not everybody should be taking LSD. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think that the majority of people should, but
Not
if you
everyone.
legitimately have, you know, like if you're talking to people already, maybe not. But also, I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about
Right.
because, you know, you haven't done research on this shit. I constantly think about, I told my friends, I was like, if I ever get Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or shit like that, and I start losing my mind, give me psychedelic drugs. And I'm like, don't tell my kids about it if they don't want to but like, you need to dose me because like nobody is going to just like go out and be like, all right, we need some Alzheimer's patients to start like, you know, running these trials on and shit. But I legitimately feel like, I don't know, there's times where I'm tripping and I'm like, oh God, am I going to have Alzheimer's later? Is that what this does? And I feel like it could just be delayed from psychedelics or something. I know obviously not everybody with Alzheimer's has done psychedelics, but I feel like, I don't know, it just affects our brains in ways that, you know, people don't understand. And
Right. I mean, we have no idea. I think
I want to be the guinea pig for that.
you want to get Alzheimer's. You
I
want to
don't want-
volunteer for.
Well, if I get Alzheimer's, I want to be the guinea pig for that.
if you get
yeah, let me put
Alzheimer's,
it there.
all right, let's put it out there now.
Into the universe.
If there's any way to get Alzheimer's, let me know, and then we'll get Steven.
Right
And then
in.
Steven will get it, and then he'll get some of the most fucking badass drugs you get.
Dude,
ever
I'll
had. He'll
have,
do
like,
all the drugs.
I
After that,
hope
he'll
this
do-
blows up. That people are like, if that kid gets Alzheimer's, you let me know, and I'm gonna send you guys some acid.
Oh,
Like,
dude, we'll
get
do a
sponsored by the Grateful
GoFundMe.
Dead.
No, you'll get Alzheimer's, and then we'll fucking start this GoFundMe. People will start fucking. They'll start sending you all the psychedelic
Fund me
drugs.
drugs,
Hell
yeah.
yeah, dude!
Not
And then
even
it'll be
cash.
like Steven is slowly losing every memory he's ever had. Please send every psychedelic you have so that he can have a great time on his way out.
It's like Paul Stamets. You know who Paul Stamets
Yeah.
is? Yeah. You know, he talks about like that one guy who was losing his hearing at the end of his life, and then
He took some mushrooms
He took,
and-
a godly dose of mushrooms, and he's like laying down, and he can hear like a thumping, and he like looks over, and it's ants walking next to him on his deck.
That's so weird.
Right.
But we know so little about the brain.
Yeah.
I was a psych major, dude, and that's one of the things you learn in psychology is that we actually know very little about the brain. It's super hard.
I was kind of a psych major. I did a lot of psychedelics.
Nice.
So,
there you go.
yeah.
It'd be like, yeah, I'd say more. I mean, I did too. I feel like psychology is mostly made up of people who are fucked up in the first place because they want to figure out why.
Exactly, dude.
Like,
I 100%
You know what I
agree
mean?
with
Like
you
that's
on
mostly that, and then on the other, and then really, you know, in the end, you're trying to figure something out about the human mind that I feel like there's no way of really knowing until because we all have minds, so there's no way of really objectively looking at any human minds
Yeah.
until we have like I guess AI or something that can look back at us. But until then, I feel like we're just kind of spinning our wheels, being like, "What? We don't know what makes us do anything." But I feel like at least hopefully with psychedelic research, they'll be able to figure some of this shit out more. You know, so if I can be able to like figure out. I've been microdosing psilocybin for a while, or mushrooms for a while, and it's been really helpful for like depression and shit, you know, anxiety and depression or stress or whatever. I did acid too, microdosed acid for a bit too,
Like,
and
or
that was-
whatever I got, you know.
Oh well, I mean, I had like old shrooms. I don't know if you ever had old shrooms, but I figured that's a good use for old shrooms because I've taken the old shrooms before and it's kind of like, it's okay, but at least, you know, microdosing, it's like, I feel like I get something out of it, you know? Like
I take the host defense. Paul Stamets has like this brand of like lion's mane mushrooms.
Are you like
Well, a bunch
sponsored
of
by
different-
Paul Stamets? What's good? Really pimping the and that's use your code Belkowski.
I'm just saying, we're talking about
K-O-W-S-K-I.
We're gonna talk about people sending me drugs. I would love Paul Stamets to be one of those people.
To not
drugs though,
just
but
actually healing mushrooms.
Yeah,
Paul
yeah.
Stamets, if you're listening to this, please send Steven drugs. Before we wrap up, the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the whole reason you asked to be on the podcast in the first place. You want to talk about pedophiles or pedophilia, not specific pedophiles per se, but the
Just
act
in general.
the idea of it. Yes.
You,
tell me. Go ahead.
You made a post about
did.
something about kids in Hollywood and whatnot, or being used for.
Do you want to
sex,
hear out my idea? Nobody is really. I've never had a chance to actually talk to somebody one-on-one about this. So
Okay.
here's my pitch. Here we go. Okay. I feel like they should outlaw child acting. Okay. Kids shouldn't be in entertainment, like what we consider adult entertainment, because all right, there's no real benefit to them. And and the harms outweigh the benefit to us as a society. Like what we get out of it as a society is just entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But what they get out of it is basically a broken childhood and possibly getting fucked over and over, like literally. So to me, I'm like, I know it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna fucking happen. It's like me telling people to stop eating meat. Like it's not gonna happen.
It definitely won't happen. But it's, you know,
but
it's
you
an
could.
interesting
I
point.
think we should have our eyes open and be like, oh, we are literally doing this for our entertainment.
Have you ever seen Nathan For You?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the episode where he has the claw that's gonna, if he can't get out of the handcuffs, it's gonna expose him to all these children.
It's
he's
genius.
telling the parents, he's like, and I've blurred your faces so that you won't be embarrassed. Your friends won't say like, why did you let this man expose himself to your children for only $100? And then they're all like nodding, like, okay, cool, thank you. And they're very barely blurred and shit.
Right.
But it's like, it's crazy that what people will do just for like, to get their kid the opportunity to go ahead. Like the Michael Jackson documentaries, for example. Like all of those kids. First of all, I think it's fucked up that people even watch the Michael Jackson documentaries. I don't know what my first memory was as a child, but like my entire life I've known Michael Jackson as a pedophile.
Right.
Don't ever go to fucking Neverland Ranch, anything like that.
Right.
And I don't know. So for people to be like, okay, leaving Neverland, what's this about? You're just like, you're exposing yourself to that negative energy, and you're kind of supporting like this whole idea. I don't know. I feel like
you feel by
desensitizing
making
America.
a documentary about it, you're desensitizing the public to pedophilia? Because I feel like it's I agree with what you're saying, but I would say for me it's more like you're sensationalizing it in a way that will never solve the problem.
Yeah,
and is just more like
that's
gawking.
my thing. I feel like it's just adding like fuel to the fire.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it
Like
doesn't-
it's showing pictures of all these kids, and then they're going over their graphic like details and descriptions of getting like molested by Michael Jackson. I was watching. I was like, this is disgusting, and I feel like there are pedophiles out here just having a field
Watching
day
it,
to this fucking documentary.
I feel like so much stuff is actually still geared toward pedophiles.
Yes.
It's not geared
Oh
towards
my
stopping
God.
it at all. It's actually enabling it all. And I don't understand. Is it like, do they have a shitload of money? Like what?
My
going,
theory,
like,
my theory
why?
is Harvey Weinstein is just producing his dick off, and he's like trying to desensitize
Still?
America. And he's like, my trial date's coming up, and I really need people.
You really
to-
think it's just because of
Remember
Harvey
Michael
Weinstein?
Jackson? Yeah,
you don't
I
think
think
it's because of? I
think he's
don't
a
know.
heavy
I think.
hitter.
I think like there's a sickness that's in our society that's sort of enabled. So first of all, would you say that you agree that like the kids get fucked up? You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Because I'm trying to think of like if there is an actual like good reason, then I'm open to being like, okay, I could see why maybe. Because the only good reason I can think of is like the kid is super talented.
Yeah.
The kid wants to do it, but that's kind of like, some kids are good at sex. That doesn't mean you know what I mean? Like just because a kid's good at something doesn't mean like the parents have to protect them. And if the parents are fucking just pimping them out to like even Nathan For You, $100 just to get on TV to possibly be exposed by a guy. It's just kind of crazy.
Like something in a situation that they completely don't understand.
Right.
Too. In a satirical show that it's like it'd be impossible for these kids at this era, near impossible for them to like get these jokes. And it's like the joke is that they're there.
That it's illegal. That what is it? Well, not only that, it's like it doesn't even nowadays. It's almost so normal to do it. It's kind of like you're kind of weird if you didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like especially in LA, if you had a casting call and your kid was picked for something and you're like, no, I'm not gonna do it. People are like, whoa, what's wrong with you? Like, why wouldn't you?
Your kid had a shot at his big break and you held that from him.
And it's like, what? No, dude. Like, what if he was gonna get like railed by a bunch of agents?
Dude,
like, what if he's
straight
gonna
up.
I mean, it could happen, like, and that's what a lot of these I don't know if you heard about like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim and shit, and Corey Feldman's made fun of, everybody makes fun of him like he's crazy and he has these Corey's Angels and all that shit, but some of the shit he talks about is like back in the day when he was a kid, they would send him to these parties. His parents would just let him go in these limos with these dudes to these parties, and he would be like 12, 13, like a fucking little boy, and he'd be like, this shit is weird and creepy, you know what I mean? This shit is not like for kids. It's like sexual and weird, and like, so he's like, some kids don't make it through, man. Some kids just fucking, there's predators out there.
Dude, straight up. I mean, like, for even, I don't know, my parents, like, when I was growing up, like, I mean, I was Catholic, so they would not let their eyes off me for a second.
Oh, no shit. So did you hear any stories? I was Catholic too, actually. So,
there was, like, nothing that ever, like, happened at our church, about it. But it was, like, I don't know, just in general, being a Catholic growing up, people are always like,
you were like aware.
Yeah, you've been raped yet and stuff.
Right.
Like, it's a fucking thing.
Right.
But, it's, I don't know, like, the whole idea of these priests that aren't allowed to have sex, they're not allowed to get married and all this stuff, and then they have to hear everybody coming to them confessing all of their wildest sexual encounters and shit like that.
You think that just gets them off?
But
then why are they fucking kids? Like, what the fuck? That's a whole other thing. You know what I mean? Like,
see, and like that's almost like something that like. I don't think I ever want to be able to understand why they're fucking kids, because I feel like if you're understanding why somebody is like into pedophilia, and you're like, it's like, oh, I get that. Like, I don't want to get that.
Yeah, no, I
but that's the same thing with the Michael Jackson documentary.
Exactly.
I was like, I don't want to get into the head of a pedophile.
Right, but at the same time, I think we need to be. Like, I get what you're saying. You don't want to like get in there and then start kind of like justifying it or rationalizing it and being like it's okay and like whatever, But but on the other hand, what's happening now is that it's just in the shadows.
Yeah, because nobody wants.
Yeah, because nobody talks about it. So that's why you can get away with it, and nobody's shining a light on it. And even when you do, it doesn't seem to fucking matter for some reason. So like what? And that's what I'm wondering is like everybody. It's really interesting, like, if you look on the news, like, what people go crazy over, right? They're going crazy over, like, the Mueller report, or Trump was a racist, said something racist, or, or this guy, said this thing about that guy, but no one is really being like, hey, look at this, we have this, like, fucking, just a meat grinder of children going through this industry, whether it's the church, or Hollywood, or fucking our social services, or the fucking, at the border, where they're putting them in cages, like,
those kids still haven't been reunited with their families yet. Nobody's been talking about.
Yeah, and that they've been abused. All these kids everywhere, and the reason I feel like nobody gives a fuck about kids is they have no power.
Yeah,
they can't vote. They have no money. You can't do shit. Yeah, so it's just like it's just gonna keep happening, and nobody.
Dependence.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I guess it's like as long as it's basically like. As long as you can target the most vulnerable, then no one will say anything. So if you like poor kids, poor black and brown kids, then that's like what Sandusky was, right? Because these were all football kids. They're all sports kids for fucking, and nobody. It was shit was going on for over 20 years. Nobody really like
anything to get their kids a shot at Penn State.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of it, of the like money machine of football, right? Like you can't stop. Money machine, right?
Like
you can't stop
you
this.
Your wildest dreams in front, or the wildest dreams of whoever right in front of them. It's like it's tough for people to say no and be like, let's take a step back. Yet, like why are you being so nice to me? Why do you want my kid to come to your football camp on a scholarship and stuff like that when he's not even that good? And like
see, that's why I think if there was a little more awareness of that shit, people would be savvier. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, because
then it would be like somebody hitting on you at a bar.
Exactly. Then you'd be like, whoa, why? Why do you want him to bring swim trunks?
It's like one thing if like this guy orders 2 drinks for us, and it's another thing if he's got 4 drinks and he's leaving, so who wants 4?
If anything, I think what really needs to be happening is instead of putting kids into Hollywood roles where they have to act, why not put them through a pedophile training camp where they need to learn to spot all the signs of a predator and then learn how to get out of the situation? You know what I mean? Like just teach them how, because otherwise you're just throwing kids in there without no understanding that people want to fuck them or people will trick them. People will try to do sexual things with them.
They don't even know what sex is.
And that when you feel confused, like it's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like, because that's how you. That's predators prey on kids' confusion, right? They prey on your confusion. They prey on the fact that they're an adult, that they have more power over you. So I feel like if you arm kids with some knowledge of like what to do in that situation or how to even spot that it's going on.
Like what are you gonna do? Have like reformed pedophiles come to schools and talk to kids about like here's what I used to do.
Maybe or kids who are fucking kids who are fucking targeted, kids who are
honestly they should bring pedophiles into schools to talk to kids,
talk to the kids and be like, listen,
have a security guard there and be like, look, he's not gonna rape you now.
We're gonna watch him, we're not gonna leave him alone, but just tell them your secrets, tell them what you do.
You like Can I have somebody come up from the audience? No, you cannot.
No touching. No touching.
It's like, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I had to try just once. Okay, let's get on with it.
All right, no. I care about the kids. I do.
I'm being serious now.
Okay, kids. But why not? Why not teach them instead of fucking, they're defenseless otherwise. And then that way I believe you can let the kids all have phones. And then they can whip their phones out, fucking start recording the motherfucker and be like, this is a pedophile. I learned this in school.
But then, who wants to do that? Who wants to be like, oh, yeah, I go around the countries and honestly, that should be like the sentence. That should be the sentence for pedophilia.
Yeah. Why does it? Yeah, exactly. Fucking.
You got to go around the country and talk
I feel like
to
if you
after you serve your time,
if you made it a thing, people will want to do it. It's just that it's like stigmatized. Like no one can. You can't do that now.
You want to start the organization that puts pedophiles into schools?
I feel like what? This could be the birthplace of a new thing. This could be the revolution, right? We're taking these pedophiles and we're putting them to work. All right, they're gonna do good. It's gonna be like
no
the
more
goddamn
free ride.
Yeah, it's like the Suicide Squad of pedophiles. Okay, we're taking you to these schools. You're gonna teach these kids.
We're gonna get the creepy old fat guys. We're gonna get the hot young teachers that were caught sleeping with students.
Hell yeah.
We're
going to get them in there.
victims.
We're going to make sure, we're going to screen them, make sure that they're cool, get them in there, teach the kids, and then maybe teach the kids a little jujitsu. I don't know, just some self-defense, a little bit of and then
a jujitsu instructor.
Yeah, jujitsu instructor, and then maybe a photography.
A
photography instructor or somebody who knows how to live stream. Like somebody who can teach them a few apps and then and then we're good to go, man. We're gonna catch all these motherfuckers. All right, dude, great talking to you, dude. Thanks so much for coming on the thing. Tell us, the people out there, where they can find you online.
All of my social media is pretty much at Belkowski.
Belkowski.
Yeah, 1 L and 1 G.
So that's what, Instagram, Twitter, Facebooks, and whatever the fuck they're.
Facebook, Steven Belkowski, but I don't use Facebook.
Nobody uses Facebook. Do you have any shows or anything you wanna plug?
Yeah, I got a show on May 2nd, but I don't remember where it is.
Doesn't remember where it is, guys, but he has a show. It's May 2nd.
That's pretty much
If you go to his something, his web,
I might post a
social,
story about it.
Might post a what? Do you know where who the show is for? Any other details you could give us? He has no.
I think it might be at Hollywood Hotel.
He can describe at length what it was like to dissociate on a hit of nitrous on LSD, but he has no idea where the show is on the second.
I didn't even get to the half of it. Okay, but
there's a second half of the story after you astrally raped your friend.
That was the entire thing.
After you both gave each other astral hand job.
Pretty much. It was like a spiritual job.
No, I'm just making fun, but it is funny.
What do you mean?
Huh? Well, it's funny when you do, because I have an older podcast. My buddy Caleb and I, we did acid, and we were at the beach all day, and we got fucking sunburned. And we make this. I started making this joke about how we're so homophobic, we would rather get cancer than put suntan lotion on each other.
Oh my god, that's funny as hell.
Because if you think about it, if it was just one other gay, if he was gay or I was gay, it would have happened. Or if one of us was a chick or two chicks, it would have happened. But two straight dudes were we were both just we just kind of put some on our face, and the rest of us just got torched,
who's
dude.
Gayer, you or me?
No, it's just we don't. Neither of us wanted to touch each other.
That's how it goes. But if it was a gay friend, you would want to touch the gay friend.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Oh, okay.
It's weird. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's so weird.
There, based on sexual. I guess it's for me, it's just the friend in general. It's how tight am I with this friend? Do I care if he gets skin cancer?
Oh, dude, that was my good buddy, man. I don't want him to get cancer, but it was weird. But we both agreed. We were both no, not at the time, but afterwards. Afterwards, we were no, we both did the thing that we were meant to do.
The straightest
both straight. Yeah, both two straight guys. We did the thing that leads to death.
Did the straightest thing possible.
It's basically that's why we die early. That's why they die the earliest. And that's just how it is. Thanks so much, dude, for coming on the podcast. Great talk, and catch Steven Belkowski online and in person, possibly in Los Angeles if you're around. He's on the open mic scene and he's doing shows. All right, bye.
Switch it up like that.
Switch it up, speaker box blast, 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 blast.
Switch it up like that.
Okay, yeah, That's right. Hope you had a great time listening. Hope you had that was a good conversation that we had. I hope you guys are doing Great. I got some things to tell you about before we go. I have a show coming up this Saturday at the Sycamore Tavern. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in the Hollywood area, come down to the Sycamore Tavern. 4:20 show. It's the Shindig show. It's going to be a variety show. There's going to be music. It's going to be comedy. It's going to be amazing. 7:30 start. Okay, get there at 7. 7:30 start. It's going to end at 9:30. It's a 2-hour show. It's going to be fucking awesome, guys. I'm excited to do a set. I'm excited. Throw some shit down. I've been doing a lot of stand-up. I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling good. And that's the perfect possibility for a spectacular failure. And I don't like, advertising that there's a possibility of failure, but let's be honest, that's what stand-up is. The possibility of failure right there in front of your eyes, but possibly not. I know what I'm doing. I feel I'm doing okay, but sometimes things can go south. And you know what? You could find out whether or not I did too many edibles on 420 if I end up having a panic attack. And that's going to be worth the price of admission. I'm going to put the link up on my Insta bios or whatever the fucks. I'm going to put the link up to the ticket. Use the code ROGIN, ROGIN. Use the code. Man, it's kind of been my dream to have a code, for something, like Rogan, Joe Rogan, ROG, and use the code ROGAN for 10% off on it. So, use the code ROGAN for $5 off your ticket. I think that means your ticket will be $10 instead of $15, which, hey, that's going to be a deal. Sycamore Tavern, okay? It's in Hollywood. It's on Sunset and Sycamore, which is right by La Brea, basically Sunset and La Brea. Come on down this Saturday night, 4:20, 7:30 show. I would love to see you guys there. It's going to be a good one. Also, follow me on the Instagram and the Twitters and the YouTubes. Please just look up Rojan Kim and subscribe. Subscribe to me on iTunes and Stitcher, guys. I really appreciate your ears, your time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.